Hello, everybody. This is the Psychology 3280, Neural-Based Consciousness, week 1. This lecture is about the introduction to consciousness and the structure of the unit. My name is Nao Tsuchiya. I'm the lecturer of this unit, and my Twitter handle and email address are here, and also Facebook is here. So if you're interested in contacting with me about these lectures or else, you can do so through these channels. All right, so about this week, it's the this is an overview of this lecture. First of all, I'm going to explain the organization of this unit by explaining the global learning objectives as well as assignments that you are going to do through the lectures. There are lots of assignments, 5 namely, but I'm going to deeply explaining about the first 2 assignments for this week. And the rest of it is going to be the next week lecture part. Okay, and I also briefly talk about how you can read books or papers that are useful to for this class, or especially some parts of the assignments more efficiently. And that's an optional kind of video content, but I think it's going to be useful for you. And then there will be some lectures afterwards. So in terms of the lecture content, this is the learning objective. After the week 1, you will be able to at least think, or not really necessarily given a definitive answer to any of these. The following questions: 1, why is the problem of consciousness the main theme of this lecture or course? Interesting. The secondary, what are qualia? You may not have heard of the term qualia, but hopefully you will understand what it means. And then the third one is what does it mean to study consciousness, or how can we study consciousness? And then fourth one is what are the impacts of consciousness research? So after doing some research on consciousness, what kind of benefits or impacts to the society we can expect? And the fifth one is what are the difficulties, especially specific to study the consciousness? And then finally, I want you to think about this question. If you haven't before, do animals or plants or robots or AI, any kind of artificial existence, can they have consciousness in the same way as we do, or in the different forms than we have? So as a first introductory reading material, I suggested this Quest for Consciousness, chapter 1 and 20, and the glossary. Glossary contains lots of unfamiliar words to you at this moment, so just skim through it. And if you encounter something that is difficult to understand in the lecture, just come back to this thing. And throughout the lectures, I'll upload all these relevant PDF files of the subset of this Quest for Consciousness to you in the Moodle. So you should be able to download it. Okay, now organization of this unit. Basically, all the information here of this unit is contained within the Moodle. So you should consult with them when you're not sure. And then how we are communicating and the lectures are delivered, and also tutorials are going to be delivered. First, the teaching staff comprised of me, chief examiner, and also unit coordinator will be Dr. Christopher Shiva. He's not going to be involved in the direct lectures, but he's going to be the direct contact with you when you have some kind of special consideration and so on. And then as a tutors, Kian-Shen and Beth and Nico are all students in my lab, and they will be helping you in terms of the assessments as well as the tutorials. And I'll be also attending subsets of the tutorials. And after each of the tutorials, there will be 1 hour slot available for you to ask questions or continue just discussion with them. For each of them. Okay. And most of the announcements and the discussion should happen within this Moodle's function called the news forum and also general discussion forum. I have already made a welcome announcement to news forum. And then in terms of lectures, so each lecture, I'll try to split it into a series of the short videos. And each video should focus on one or at least a few learning objectives or question. And then each will be hopefully 5 to 10, 15 minutes. And then the questions will be reviewed as multiple choice questions in tutorials. For example, week 1 contents will be reviewed in tutorial week 2. And week 2 and 3 lecture is going to be reviewed in the tutorial week 4. Okay. So if you attend to tutorial, by the time if you didn't watch lectures, you will probably see lots of questions happening, and you can basically try answering this multiple question, but you are going to probably randomly answer all these, and may not be working as a effective review material. So I strongly recommend you to watch the lecture videos before each tutorial. And as you notice, if you go like this schedule, tutorial week 12 is not going to cover the lecture content of the week 12, but that's relatively short, I plan to. And also should be sort of a summary of the entire lecture. So I think it's not going to be a big problem. Okay, and then I also will provide a summary or recap of the previous lecture, and also overview of the next lecture or this lecture, current lecture, at the beginning of the lecture. And that will serve as a sort of a guiding, story for across all these lectures. Okay. So if you have any question, ask them in Moodle general discussion forums. Okay. And that can we can deal with that by about content of lectures or tutorials and assessments, and that's much faster than email, because we will prioritize answering this general discussion forum than the email inquiry. And the email can also go to spam as well, so it'll just be mindful. Okay, and then next tutorials. So tutorials will be given bi-weekly and starting from week 2. And then roughly speaking, each tutorial has 12 students, and it contains, as I said, multiple choice question Q&A kind of session between you and also tutor. And you can also discuss issues with tutors through this. And then roughly speaking, week 2, 4, and 8, partially week 6 as well, is going to be your research paper presentations. And that's going to be assessment 2. And then week 6 is going to be instructions on how to write a good research proposal. And this is given by as a sort of the short lecture by short and also interactive lecture between teaching assistant and also you. And after that, if there is any kind of remaining paper presentations that couldn't be presented from week 2 and 4, we might do that. But we might do that also week 8 if there are relatively few of the remaining tutorial presentations. All right, then week 10 and 12 is going to be a peer review discussion on research proposal, and that's going to be assessment 5. And I'm going to discuss about this or explain this in the next week's lecture. So I'll not go into the details. Okay. So the global learning objectives of this unit. Upon successful completion of this unit, you can characterize theoretical issues of consciousness. And also that would include some kind of interdisciplinary component, such as philosophy and mathematics, physics, and information theory. But don't be scared about these things. It's going to be pretty gentle kind of introduction, and I'm going to not also ask the details or difficult issues along this line in the questions. So it's just sort of introduce how this consciousness research is very interdisciplinary and interesting. And then the second thing is that describing the main experimental methods to study the neural correlates of consciousness. It's more sort of the empirical kind of questions. And then examining one's own conscious experience carefully and test it through the various demonstrations. So it's called sometimes a phenomenology approach. This is part of the focus of this lecture, week 1. And then critically evaluate the contributions of contemporary research findings and theories in key areas of the neuroscience. And then describe and apply a range of research tools and paradigms used within the neuroscientific research, and also subjective experience or consciousness. And then you are going to design a creative and empirical way to build on previous research to study a particular aspect of consciousness. It's like a proposal of the new experiment, okay, or new project. And then peer review. You will do the peer review of the work by other students, and then give some constructive feedback. This is also useful practice if you are thinking about honors or academic or in any other fields in the future. Okay. All right. So then, how are we going to achieve this? Global objective. That's a question. And lectures, as well as assessment 1, which is the multiple questions happening at the week 7 and the end of the semester, will basically cover the your knowledge on theory, experiments, and one's own conscious experience or phenomenology. And then assessment 2, which I'm going to give details today, is the paper presentation. And this one will cover your ability to expand, how to describe and also critically evaluate the literature. And then assessment 3, which is the written initial proposal, as well as a written proposal, which I'm going to give details next week, will cover, your ability to design a new project in consciousness research. And, outside of consciousness research, it's also going to be useful. And then assessment 3 and 4 as well provide your opportunity to improve, writing skills. And then finally, assessment 5, which you're going to do as a sort of the peer review of other people's proposal, will cover your peer review skills. Okay, so this is how we are going to cover all these, learning objectives, global learning objectives through the units. Okay, so now the next one. In terms of assessments, so this is just a overview again. E-assessment's gonna take up roughly 40%, each 20%. And then week 7 and end of the semester, twice. And then the presentation of the research paper is 15%. And you are going to do one of the tutorials, 2, 4, or 8 by default, and maybe 6, okay? And then written initial proposal is 5%, and the research proposal is 30%, and the peer review is gonna be 10%. And the 3 to 5, I'm gonna give detail later. And then the rubrics are available on the link. You can go from the Moodle. Here, this is a link, about summary of assessment that goes oral paper presentation, and you can see how you're going to be evaluated for each of these components, okay, and so on. All right. And then about e-assessment, okay. So multiple choice questions will be prepared, roughly speaking, 5 questions per week contents. And some of the lectures, such as lecture 1 and 12, has probably fewer number of the questions because they are less lecture contents. And then it will be 45 minutes and then plus 5 minutes of the reading time. more details will come around the time of week 7. Okay, and then on the week 7 lecture, week 7 e-assessment, we are going to assess the contents only from week 1 to 6. And then end of semester 1, we'll cover only 7 to 12. And then as a practice, or to assess your understanding, it's very useful for you to attend to the tutorial 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. Because we will provide some kind of sample multiple choice questions, and that's going to be kind of similar, not exactly identical to this e-assessment. Okay. All right, that's it for our first video.